Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I greet you today with a heart full of expectation because I believe you are not here by accident. You were not born to simply exist. You were born with a purpose, a divine assignment etched in the mind of God before you ever took your first breath. Purpose is the key to life. Without it, we drift. Without it, we wander. But with purpose, God's purpose, we walk in confidence, knowing that every step we take is ordered by the Lord. The question is not whether God has a plan for you. The question is, are you ready to walk in it? Today, I want to help you understand something critical. You were created with intention. You are not a mistake. You are not a product of chance. You are an answer to a problem God saw before you arrived. Your purpose is not something you decide. It is something you discover. So today, let's unlock the keys to walking in divine purpose. Let's tap into the mind of the Creator so that we may live not just a good life, but the right life. The life God designed for us before the foundation of the world. Are you ready? Let's walk in divine purpose. Before anything is created, His purpose is already established in the mind of its Creator. This is a fundamental principle of life and design. Every product, every invention, and every masterpiece is first conceived with an intention before it is brought into existence. Likewise, God, the greatest creator, did not create anything without a purpose, and that includes you. You are not an accident, nor were you placed on this earth without meaning. Before you were formed in your mother's womb, God had already designed you with a specific purpose in mind. When an architect designs a building, he does not lay a single brick before first drafting the blueprint. Every detail, every dimension, and every function of the building is predetermined before construction begins. The same is true for your life. You were not born to find purpose. You were born because purpose already existed for you. God did not create you and then think of something for you to do. Instead, He saw a need, determined a purpose, and then created you as the answer to that need. Everything in creation was made with purpose. The sun was made to give light and sustain life. The rain was designed to water the earth and nourish growth. The fish were created to swim and the birds were designed to fly. Nothing in creation exists without function, and you are no exception. If a bird does not fly or a fish refuses to swim, it is failing to operate in its intended. In the same way, if you live outside of God's purpose, you are not functioning according to the divine blueprint assigned to you. God is a God of intention. He does not operate in randomness or coincidence. Everything He does is strategic and meaningful. That means your gifts, your talents, your personality, and even your experiences are all part of the divine equation that makes up your purpose. You were not designed to be someone else. You were not created to imitate another person's journey. What God has placed in you is uniquely crafted for the assignment He has given you. Purpose precedes creation, which means that discovering your purpose is not about creating something new, but about aligning with what already exists in the mind of God. Too many people wander through life trying to make sense of their existence, chasing temporary success instead of eternal significance. Purpose is not about making a living, it is about making a difference. It is not about personal ambition, it is about fulfilling God's original intent for your life. Understanding this truth is the key to living a life of fulfillment and clarity. You were created on purpose, with purpose, for purpose. You are not a mistake. Your birth was not an accident. Your life is not a coincidence. Before you ever arrived on this earth, God had already determined what you were meant to do, who you were meant to become, and the impact you were meant to have. Everything God creates is a solution to a problem. There is nothing in existence that does not have a purpose. And purpose is always connected to meeting a need. If God allowed you to be born, it is because there was something missing in the world that only you could fulfill. You are not just here to exist. You are here to solve a problem that predates your arrival. Before you took your first breath, there was already a space in history reserved for your impact. Consider everything in creation. Each element, every creature, every system operates to fill a specific function. The sun provides light, heat, and energy to sustain life. Trees absorb carbon dioxide and release oxygen, making life possible. The rivers flow to nourish the land, ensuring growth and prosperity. Even the smallest organisms play a critical role in maintaining balance within ecosystems. In the same way, your life is intricately connected to a greater plan. God designed you with a unique combination of gifts, talents, and experiences because He intended for you to address a specific need in the world. People often spend their lives searching for purpose without realizing that their purpose is tied to the problems they are drawn to solve. The things that frustrate you, the injustices that stir your heart, the burdens that keep you awake at night, all of these are indicators of the assignment God has placed within you. Your dissatisfaction with the way things are is often a divine signal pointing you toward what you were created to change. The greatest inventors, leaders, and reformers in history were all people who responded to a need. They recognized a problem and dedicated their lives to solving it. Thomas Edison did not create the light bulb just to experiment with electricity. He saw the need for sustainable light. Martin Luther King Jr. did not become a leader by accident. He answered the call to confront injustice. Every major breakthrough, every revolution, every advancement in human history happened because someone identified a need and stepped into their role as the solution. God has placed within you everything required to meet the need He created you for. The skills you naturally possess, the passions that burn in your heart, and even the trials you have endured are all part of the preparation for your purpose. Nothing in your life is wasted. The challenges you have faced were not just random struggles, but were shaping you to become the answer someone else needs. What you have overcome equips you to lead others out of similar situations. Your pain bursts your purpose, and your testimony carries the power to transform lives. You were never meant to be a passive observer of life. You are a key player in God's divine plan. You are an answer, not an accident. There are people waiting for you to step into your purpose because their destiny is connected to yours. Your obedience to God's calling is not just about you. It is about the lives that will be impacted when you embrace the truth that you were created as a solution. God does not start anything until He has already finished it in His mind. This is a fundamental principle of His nature. He declares the end from the beginning and completes His work before it ever manifests in time. When He created the heavens and the earth, He did not do so randomly. He had already envisioned the purpose of creation and then set it into motion. The same principle applies to your life. Before you were born, your destiny was already completed in the mind of God. You are not trying to figure out your purpose as you go. You are simply walking in the fulfillment of what God has already established. Everything God does is intentional. He does not guess, experiment, or make mistakes. He operates with full knowledge of the past, present, and future all at once. This means that your life is not unfolding as a series of random events. Every step you take, every door that opens or closes, every challenge you face is all part of a completed plan that God designed before you arrived. Your future is not uncertain to Him. He has already written your story, and the outcome has already been determined. When an inventor creates a product, they do not build it first and then figure out what it will do. They start with a finished function in mind, then go through the process of designing and assembling it. The same is true for you. God determined your purpose first, then He formed you to fulfill it. He gave you the gifts, talents, and abilities necessary to carry out what He has already completed. You were born equipped for your assignment because your assignment was finished before you began. This is why the concept of destiny is so powerful. It means that your success in life is not based on luck, chance, or human effort alone. It is based on alignment with what God has already prepared for you. The path you are walking is not one you have to create. It is one you have to discover. Your job is not to design your own purpose, but to uncover what God has already finished and prepared for you. Many people live in fear of the unknown, uncertain about what the future holds. But the truth is, there is no unknown in the eyes of God. He has already completed your story, and He is not figuring things out as you go. This is why trusting Him is so critical. When you understand that your future is already finished in God's mind, you stop striving in your own strength and start walking in faith. You no longer have to live in anxiety about what comes next, because the one who created you has already seen the end. Everything you need to fulfill your purpose is already inside of you. God placed it there before you were born. Your journey is not about trying to achieve something new, but about walking in what has already been completed. When you grasp this truth, you begin to move with confidence, knowing that your life is unfolding according to a divine script that has already been written. Purpose is not something you decide, it is something you discover. God did not leave your destiny up to chance or personal preference. Before you were even born, He had already established a purpose for your life, and your responsibility is to uncover what He has already designed. Too many people spend their lives trying to create their own purpose, chasing after careers, ambitions, and desires that were never part of God's original intent for them. They believe that purpose is a matter of personal choice, when in reality, it is a matter of divine revelation. When a manufacturer creates a product, the purpose of that product is determined before it is even made. The manufacturer does not produce an item and then ask the item to decide what it wants to be. Instead, the product is designed with a specific function in mind, and its success is based on how well it fulfills that function. In the same way, you were created by God with a predetermined purpose. You do not get to decide what you were made for. You were made for a reason, and your role is to discover that reason and walk in it. This is why seeking God is essential in understanding your purpose. He is the one who designed you, so only He can reveal why you exist. Many people look to the world, to their own desires, or to the opinions of others to find purpose. But true fulfillment can only come from aligning with the Creator's original intent. When you live outside of God's purpose, you may experience temporary success, but you will never experience true fulfillment. Wealth, fame, and achievement do not equal purpose. A person can have everything the world offers and still feel empty because they're not walking in the reason they were created. Your purpose is often hidden within the gifts, passions, and burdens that God has placed inside of you. The things that come naturally to you, the problems that you are drawn to solve, and the desires that burn in your heart are all clues to your divine assignment. Purpose is not something you invent. It is something you recognize. You do not have to force it or fabricate it. You simply need to align yourself with what God has already deposited within you. The process of discovering purpose requires seeking, listening, and obeying. God often reveals purpose in stages, not all at once. As you walk in obedience to what He shows you today, He will continue to reveal more. Purpose is progressive, meaning that each step of faith brings greater clarity. Many people remain stagnant because they want to see the full picture before they take action. But God requires trust. He will not show you the entire journey at once. He will reveal just enough for you to take the next step. When you understand that purpose is something you uncover rather than something you create, you stop chasing after what the world says is important and start pursuing what God has ordained. You no longer live by trial and error, hoping to stumble into significance. Instead, you live with intentionality, knowing that your existence is part of a divine plan that was set in motion long before you arrived on this earth. Vision is the map to purpose. Without vision, life has no direction, no clarity, and no fulfillment. Vision is not just about seeing with your natural eyes. It is about perceiving what God has placed inside of you and understanding where He is leading you. Every person created by God has a divine assignment, but without vision, that assignment remains undiscovered and unfulfilled. Vision gives you a sense of direction, showing you what steps to take, what decisions to make, and what path to follow. Without vision, people drift through life without focus, allowing circumstances to dictate their direction instead of being led by purpose. God always gives vision before manifestation. When he calls someone to do something, he first allows them to see it in their spirit before it comes to pass. Abraham saw his descendants as numerous as the stars before he had a single child. Joseph saw his future as a leader before he ever entered Pharaoh's court. Moses saw the promised land before the Israelites took one step out of Egypt. Vision is the ability to see the end from the beginning and to align your steps with what God has already completed in eternity. It is a picture of what is possible given by God to pull you toward your destiny. A person without vision lives in survival mode, simply reacting to life instead of shaping it. They take jobs they do not love, follow paths they were never meant to walk, and settle for less than what God has planned. Vision is what keeps you moving forward, even when challenges arise. It keeps you motivated, disciplined, and focused on what truly matters. When you have vision, you do not waste time on distractions because you understand that your life is meant for something greater. Vision gives you discernment, helping you recognize which opportunities align with your purpose and which are mere detours designed to delay you. Vision is birthed in the presence of God. It is not something you create. It is something you receive. True vision comes from seeking God, spending time in prayer, and allowing him to reveal what he has already prepared for your life. The reason so many people struggle with direction is that they're looking for answers in the wrong places. They rely on human wisdom, external validation, and societal expectations instead of seeking the one who designed them. God gives vision to those who are willing to listen, trust, and obey. Once vision is received, it requires faith and action. Vision without execution remains a dream. Many people see what they're called to do, but never take the necessary steps to walk in it. Fear, doubt, and complacency keep them stuck in the same place year after year. Vision must be pursued with intentionality. It must be written down, spoken over, and acted upon daily. God does not give vision for it to remain idle. He gives it so that you can step into the reality of what he has already prepared for you. Obedience unlocks destiny. Every person has a divine purpose, a reason for being, a specific assignment given by God before they were born. However, purpose is not fulfilled automatically. It requires obedience to God's instructions. Many people desire to walk in their calling, but few are willing to submit fully to the process that leads them there. Obedience is the bridge between revelation and manifestation. And it is the key that unlocks the doors to destiny, ensuring that what God has planned for your life comes to pass in his perfect timing. Throughout Scripture, every great move of God was preceded by obedience. When God called Noah to build the ark, he did not argue, delay, or question the assignment. He obeyed. His obedience not only preserved his family, but also ensured the continuity of humanity. When Abraham was instructed to leave his homeland and go to a place God would show him, he moved in faith without knowing all the details. His willingness to obey positioned him as the father of many nations. When Moses was called to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, he had many doubts. But once he submitted to God's command, miracles followed. Every act of obedience sets into motion divine intervention and supernatural favor. Obedience is not always easy, and it often requires sacrifice. Many times God will ask you to step into the unknown, to move forward when you cannot see the full picture. Obedience requires trust. Trust that God's plan is better than your own. Trust that he sees what you cannot see, and trust that his ways are higher than your ways. Delayed obedience is still disobedience, and partial obedience is no obedience at all. To fully walk in divine purpose, complete submission to God's will is necessary. One of the greatest enemies of obedience is human reasoning. When people rely on their own understanding, they often hesitate to follow God's instructions because they cannot make logical sense of His direction. However, obedience is not about logic. It is about faith. Peter would have never walked on water if he had waited for the sea to calm. The walls of Jericho would not have fallen if Joshua had questioned God's unconventional battle strategy. Miracles happen when people obey without hesitation. Obedience is also tested in the small things. Before God entrusts a person with great purpose, He watches how they handle the little assignments. David was anointed to be king, but his first responsibility was tending sheep. His obedience in the field prepared him for the throne. Joseph had dreams of leadership, but before he ruled, he had to serve faithfully in Potiphar's house. And in prison, how a person responds to small instructions determines whether they are ready for greater responsibility. Many people desire elevation, but neglect the simple acts of obedience that position them for promotion. The path to destiny is paved with obedience. It is not enough to hear God's voice. Action must follow. When God gives an instruction, there is always a purpose behind it. Every step of obedience leads closer to the fulfillment of His plan, aligning a person with the divine purpose for which they were created. Purpose requires process. God never takes a person straight to their destiny without first preparing them for it. Every great calling comes with a season of development, a time of refining, shaping, and molding. Many people desire to step into their purpose immediately, but without process, they would not be able to handle the weight of their assignment. Process is the training ground where character is built, faith is strengthened, and wisdom is gained. Without it, purpose would be mismanaged and destiny would be short-lived. Every person that God has used mightily has gone through a season of preparation. Joseph had dreams of leadership, but before he could rule, he had to endure betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment. Those trials were not setbacks, they were steps in his process. Each challenge prepared him for the moment he would stand before Pharaoh and govern a nation. Moses was called to deliver Israel, but before he could lead, he had to spend 40 years in the wilderness, learning humility and dependence on God. Even Jesus, though fully God, went through a process before beginning His earthly ministry. He spent 30 years in preparation for just 3 years of impact. The greater the purpose, the more intense the process. Process often involves discomfort. It stretches, tests, and refines. It removes anything that could hinder destiny and strengthens the qualities necessary for success. Many people resist the process because it does not always feel good. They want the promise, but not the preparation, the reward, but not the refinement. However, skipping the process leads to premature elevation, and what is gained without preparation cannot be sustained. Just as gold is purified by fire, a person's purpose is refined through trials. The difficulties faced along the journey are not meant to destroy, but to develop. God uses challenges to prepare a person for their assignment. The rejection, disappointments, and delays that seem like obstacles are actually opportunities for growth. When David was anointed king, he did not immediately take the throne. Instead, he went back to the pasture, tending sheep. He had to fight lions and bears in private before he ever faced Goliath in public. His process equipped him with the skills, courage, and faith necessary for his destiny. What seems insignificant today is often the very thing God is using to build the strength needed for tomorrow. The process also reveals who is truly committed to their purpose. Many start the journey excited, but only those who endure the process reach the destination. Some turn back when it gets hard, while others try to take shortcuts. But God is not in the business of promoting people who are not ready. He will not release a person into their full purpose until they have been tested and proven. The process is not punishment, it is preparation. Every delay, every challenge, and every test is working together to equip a person for what God has already planned. Those who embrace the process will find themselves fully prepared when the moment of destiny arrives. Faith is the fuel for purpose. No one can fully walk in their divine assignment without faith, because purpose requires stepping into the unknown, trusting in what cannot be seen, and believing in what has not yet manifested. Faith is the foundation of purpose, the force that enables a person to move forward even when circumstances seem impossible. Without faith, purpose remains unfulfilled and destiny is never realized. Those who accomplish great things for God are not those who have all the answers, but those who believe despite the uncertainty. Every person called by God had to rely on faith to walk in their purpose. When God told Noah to build an ark, there was no visible sign of a flood, but he obeyed because he believed God's word. When Abraham was called to leave his country and go to an unknown land, he had no map, no plan, and no details. Only a promise. He moved forward in faith, trusting that God had already prepared the way. When Peter stepped out of the boat to walk on water, it was faith that sustained him. As long as his focus was on Jesus, he did the impossible. Faith is not about seeing first and then believing. It is about believing first, knowing that what God has spoken will surely come to pass. Faith is not just a feeling, it is action. Many people say they have faith, but they hesitate to move when God calls them. They wait for all the conditions to be perfect, for every detail to be revealed, and for confirmation after confirmation. But faith does not wait for perfect conditions. Faith moves in obedience even when nothing makes sense. The heroes of faith in Scripture were not perfect people, but they were willing to step out when God called. They did not wait for proof. They acted on the promise. Walking in divine purpose requires a faith that endures. There will be challenges, delays, and moments of doubt. But faith does not waver in the face of adversity. Faith sees beyond the obstacles and focuses on the outcome. The enemy always tries to weaken faith because he knows that without faith, purpose cannot be fulfilled. Doubt is the weapon he uses to keep people stuck in fear and hesitation. Those who allow doubt to take root will find themselves paralyzed, unable to move forward in their calling. But those who stand firm in faith will see the fulfillment of everything God has spoken. Faith is the ability to trust God even when the journey does not make sense. It is the confidence that he who began a good work will complete it. Faith keeps a person going when doors close, when people walk away, and when resources seem insufficient. Faith reminds a person that God is not limited by human circumstances, that his plans are greater than any obstacle, and that nothing is impossible for him. Faith is what turns vision into reality, what transforms promises into testimonies, and what brings divine purpose into full manifestation. Your life is not an accident. You were created by God with a divine purpose, a plan that was completed before you were even born. Everything you need to fulfill your assignment has already been placed inside of you. But walking in that purpose requires faith, obedience, and vision. Purpose is not something you choose. It is something you discover. And it unfolds through a process designed to refine and prepare you for the greatness God has called you to. God does not reveal the entire journey at once, but he gives you enough to take the next step. Every challenge, every delay, and every test is working together to shape you for the destiny he has prepared. Obedience is the key that unlocks the doors to your calling, and faith is the fuel that keeps you moving forward, even when you cannot see the full picture. Those who trust in God's plan, embrace the process, and refuse to quit will see the manifestation of his promises. The question is not whether you have a purpose. The question is whether you will align yourself with it. Will you trust God's timing? Will you follow his instructions even when they do not make sense? Will you step out in faith, believing that what he has spoken will come to pass? Your future is not ahead of you. It is inside of you, waiting to be revealed. The world is waiting for you to walk in the fullness of who God created you to be. The time to step into your divine purpose is now.